The chairperson present, the UCGL leadership, the president and the secretary general, the UN Habitat executive director, the ambassadors and the members of the diplomatic corps, the Africities summit delegates present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. With your permission, Your Excellency, allow me to invite the governor of Kisumu City, the Kisumu County, Governor Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o, and the Secretary General UCGLA, Mr. John Perry, to give us a brief welcome remark. We'll start with the Governor, then the Secretary General. Welcome, Governor, sir. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes, Governor.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, Your Excellencies, the Presidents and Heads of Government present here, Your Excellency, my Heads of States and Prime Ministers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of the United Cities and Local Government of Africa, led by the Secretary General, senior government officials, my colleagues at the Council of Governors, including the Vice Chairman, James Ongwae, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Kisumu on this very nice day. We are happy to have you here and please feel at home. On June 22nd, the year 2012, at a very public ceremony in Rio de Janeiro, members of the United Nations agreed to a universal set of goals that would meet the urgent environmental, political, and economic challenges facing our world. The moment for this agreement had been long in coming, but it set an ambitious timeline of 2030 for the attainment of the 17 goals that were agreed upon. Goal number 11 focused on sustainable cities and communities. 1 year later, at the African Union AU Summit in May 2013, heads of state and government in their 50th anniversary made a solemn declaration and laid down a vision for Africa that they wanted to see in the next half a century. The vision later became Agenda 2063 of the AU, summarized as a homegrown plan for transformation. One of the key pillars that informed the 7 aspirations of the Agenda 2063 was the urgent need to promote and strengthen local governance in all African states. Today, Your Excellencies, as we reflect on the theme of the 9th edition of the Africities Summit, to what extent can we declare confidently that we are on course in implementing the 2 agendas, one for the UN, one for the AU, both related and complementary? Fully aware that both the UN and AU declarations will only matter to the African people when they have a positive impact on their lives, we meet here today, Your Excellencies, to review the extent to which we have implemented them and what is yet to be done. In Kenya, Your Excellencies, we began doing this when Kenyans approved a new constitution in 2010, introducing devolution in our governance under the presidency of Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. Today, the devolution project has replaced fear of exclusion at the grassroots with participation and involvement in decision-making. In intermediate cities like Kisumu, plenty of evidence is already available regarding the dividends of devolution. Intermediate cities also have the potential to address inequalities among groups that have arisen from central power structures that disproportionately channel resources to few urban areas. Countries like South Africa have not only entrenched devolution, but have also devolved key public functions to other cities. Cape Town houses their parliament. Pretoria is where the executive sits, while Johannesburg is the business center. Apart from its well-established federal system, Nigeria has developed Abuja as its capital city, leaving Lagos largely as a place for business. Tanzania, though largely governed with a central structure, has Dodoma as the seat of its parliament, leading to its growth and development, while Dar es Salaam remains largely a commercial and industrial center. This summit delivers the policy challenges that emerge at designing constitutional frameworks that are sensitive to, but not trapped in, elite political relations that usually encourage divisions within the nations on a tribal basis. Devolution offers an answer that emphasizes both individual liberty and community values by empowering local communities within their own local government, elected by them and kept in check by them. This is the essence of democracy and democratic decision-making for equitable development. Your Excellencies, in that spirit of the importance of local government, the United States Local Government of Africa was established. I therefore take this opportunity, Your Excellency, to call upon the stage the Secretary General of UCLGA Africa, Jean-Pierre Elongbasi. Mr. Secretary General.
Mr. President, former presidents, President of the African Union Commission, ministers, governors, I'm privileged to stand before you humbly. First of all, to thank you to have accepted to be the patron of the Africities Summit held in Kisumu. We are honored, Mr. President. And this is a testimony of your dedication to decentralization. Let me tell you, Mr. President, that our organization, the United Cities and Local Government of Africa, dare classifying African states for their friendship to local governments. And Kenya, in our classification of 2021 that has been issued for this summit, is rated, I think, third or fourth, meaning you are at the upper level of the most friendly to the local people as a government. We thank you for that. We thank you also to have accepted to come to Kisumu. This is the first time an Africities Summit is organized in what we call an intermediary city. We wished to send a clear message that the reality of our continent is reflected in the way we treat our intermediary cities. Treat them well, and we will treat African citizens well. Treat them bad, and you will harvest problems in our state and government. We are happy we are treating them well, and we hope that besides you, you have the President of African Union Commission who's listening, and we want you to be our champion. By him, to have intermediary cities are your key target of governance. All the African people pouring in capital cities is trouble for you. People remaining in the countryside is a benefit for everyone. But the countryside should be part and parcel of our states, of our continent. And this should be translated into bringing to them what they deserve the most: basic services, education, health, water, energy, day-to-day living conditions. You do that, Mr. President, you do that, Mr. Ministers, means that you empower the people to take charge of themselves. Africities is all about that, a conversation to empower the people to take charge of themselves and to rebuild self-esteem. Therefore, start the difficult journey for development. I am certain that you share our views, and I'm certain that we support it. And I'm certain that Africities in Kisumu will be a landmark in the history of this continent. I thank you.
Thank you so much for the welcome remarks. With your permission, Your Excellency, on behalf of the Council of Governors, I wish to invite the Governor of Kisii County and the Vice Chairperson, Council of Governors, Governor James Ongwae, to make a brief remark on behalf of the Council of Governors. Welcome, Governor.
Thank you very much. Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the Chairperson of the African Union, the former President of Seychelles, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations and Head of the UN Habitat, H.E. Christine Batume, governors and mayors from various subnational governments, both in Africa and outside Africa, members of the diplomatic corps, governors present, cabinet secretaries, members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies and distinguished delegates, it gives me great pleasure to stand before you on behalf of the Council of Governors and on behalf of the 47 county governments. This is not the first time that Kenya is hosting the Africities Summit, having hosted in 2006 under the auspices of the now defunct local governments. Indeed, county governments are proud that the summit has been convened in an intermediary city that is within a county. This honor, ladies and gentlemen, is testament that the intermediary cities of Africa are receiving attention, and there is recognition that they play a critical role in achievement of global agenda. I convey a warm thank you to His Excellency, our President Uhuru Kenyatta, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the governor of Kisumu County, for taking up the mantle towards delegations from all over Africa during this entire week. I also wish to extend my appreciation to the United Cities and local governments of Africa for the immense support they have accorded to Kenya to deliver this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this summit is clear to you all. I don't want to repeat it, but it resonates well with Kenya's Vision 2030, which prioritizes sustainable urbanization through ensuring the country's population is provided with adequate and decent housing in well-planned urban areas. Your Excellencies and distinguished guests, one of the most significant changes in the world, and particularly in Africa in recent times, and one that seems to be of even greater importance, is the future and the rapid growth that we are seeing at the moment. It is estimated by the year 2050, a majority of the African population will be living in urban cities. Therefore, rapid urbanization means that governments at the central and local levels must rethink and re-engineer urban governance if this phenomenon is to be well managed. Building the resilience of our major cities and urban areas against the shocks of fast-paced migration and burgeoning populations, and investing in the growth of intermediate cities is a delicate balance that African governments must address. To address these challenges and to tap into dividends of urbanization, Kenya developed the National Urban Development Policy in 2016. The policy envisions a secure, well-governed, competitive, and sustainable urban areas. The policy is crucial in ensuring the country remains in the path of implementation of SDG on making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Further, to implement the commitments of the African Agenda up to 2063. Your Excellencies, let me now turn to issues that relate to our subnational government. Kenya adopted a new constitution in 2010, which created a devolved system of government comprising national government and 47 county governments. With a devolved system of governance, Kenya has experienced positive economic growth and development across the country. In Kenya, county governments play an integral role in the urban agenda, as they are charged with managing urban areas and cities. Further, county governments are the generators of spatial plans and development plans that are aimed at promoting evidence-based decision-making. Earlier this year, Nakuru County became the fourth county to have a city after Nakuru County received a charter of elevation to city status by our president. Kisumu, of course, had been given their status much earlier. And as county governments, we thank our national government and our president. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I wish to call upon the delegates in this summit to reflect on the following. 1, the need to explore non-traditional financing options for cities and urban areas in the wake of dwindling central government and donor support. Second, the need to formulate urban policies, laws, strategies, and action plans aimed at building the resilience of our cities and urban areas. Third, the need to strengthen the capacities of the leadership of cities and urban areas. Fourth, the need to address the increasing urban poverty and inequalities in line with SDG's relying call of leaving no one behind. Fifth, the need for our cities to adopt technologies that are climate smart. Sixth, the need to strengthen data management and promote SDG voluntary local review mechanism to document progress in implementation and to ensure that locals get involved in decision making. Seventh, and finally, the need to develop an African blueprint to guide infrastructural development in cities and urban areas as we are becoming more and more together. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Council of Governors, I wish you all fruitful deliberations and hope you will enjoy the hospitality of Kisumu County and the beauty of this great land. Some of us from the region fondly refer to Kisumu as the new UK. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and be blessed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, the Governor of Kisii, Honorable James Ongwae. On behalf of the Kenyan delegation, the governors present, the deputy governors present, the honorable members of parliament present, the senators present, members of the county assemblies present, thank you so much. Your Excellency, allow me now to invite the President of the United Cities and Local Authority, UCLG Africa, Christine Bandutume, to make her remarks. Welcome. Let's appreciate her as she takes the podium.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République, Excellence, Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine, Excellence, Messieurs les anciens chefs d'État d'Afrique, Excellence, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Excellence, Madame le secrétaire général adjointe de l'Organisation des États-Unis, Excellence, Monsieur John Kerry, envoyé spécial des États-Unis sur le climat, Excellence, Madame la directrice exécutive du Programme des Nations Unies pour l'environnement, Excellence, Madame la directrice exécutive du Programme des Nations Unies pour les établissements humains. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, les représentants du corps diplomatique et des organisations bilatérales et multilatérales de la coopération. Monsieur le ministre secrétaire de cabinet pour la décentralisation, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les présidents des communautés économiques régionales, chers collègues maires, leaders et élus des collectivités territoriales, honorables représentants des autorités traditionnelles d'Afrique, Mesdames et Messieurs, les représentants de la société civile et du monde académique, Mesdames et Messieurs, les représentants des milieux économiques et des organisations philanthropiques, Mesdames et Messieurs, les représentants des médias, honorables invités, chers amis, professeur Peter Anyang Nyong'o, gouverneur du comté de Kisumu, Madame Lupita Nyong'o, ambassadeur de bonne volonté pour le sommet Africités. Vaillant peuple de Kisumu et du Kenya, je vous apporte les salutations des 16 000 collectivités territoriales et de leurs 51 associations nationales regroupés au sein de l'Organisation de cités et gouvernements locaux unis d'Afrique. Je vous remercie, Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République, d'avoir bien voulu accorder votre haut patronage à cette 9e édition du sommet Africités organisée par CGLU Afrique en collaboration avec le gouvernement du comté de Kisumu, le Conseil des gouverneurs du Kenya et le gouvernement de l'État du Kenya. Je vous remercie tous, très sincèrement, d'avoir répondu présent à cette cérémonie officielle et vous exprime par ma voix la joie de la communauté africaine des collectivités territoriales de nous retrouver si nombreux et en personne à ce rendez-vous unique de dialogue avec l'Afrique des peuples, le cœur battant. Le choix de Kisumu pour accueillir cet incontournable rendez-vous de tous ceux qui sont concernés par la gouvernance locale en Afrique est un acte de foi qui manifeste la conviction de ces Jésus Afrique qu'en partant de ces villes et territoriales, plus spécifiquement de celles intermédiaires, l'Afrique peut sûrement renouveler sa réflexion sur sa transformation structurelle et son développement durable. Les villes intermédiaires sont le reflet le plus fidèle de l'état du développement de nos pays. Elles sont en effet en prise directe avec leur interland rural, dont elles sont le centre des services pour les populations des zones rurales et les places de marché sur lesquelles s'appuie le développement des économies locales. Elles sont donc les lieux stratégiques les mieux appropriés pour relever le défi soulevé par la triple crise sanitaire, écologique et de la gouvernance des affaires publiques. C'est pour cette raison que le comité politique Africités a proposé de réfléchir sur le rôle des villes intermédiaires dans la mise en œuvre de l'agenda 2030 des Nations Unies et de l'agenda 2060 de l'Union africaine. Je suis convaincu que le sommet Africités fera date dans la longue marche qui mène vers la renaissance de l'Afrique. Je souhaite à tous de fructueux échanges et plein succès à nos travaux. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Thank you so much, the President of United Cities and Local Government UCLG Africa. Your Excellency, allow me now to invite the Undersecretary, the Executive Director of United Nations Human Settlement Program, Nairobi, Ms. Maimuna Hood Sharif, to make a brief remark. Welcome, Madam.
Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Musa Faki, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, Cabinet Secretary for Devolution, Your Excellency Peter Anyang Nyongjo, Governor of Kisumu, Your Excellency Martin Wambora, Chairperson of the Council of Governors of Kenya, Madam Christine Nutume, President of the United Cities of Local Government of Africa, UCLGA, John Pera Elong Embassy, the General Secretary of UCLGA, honorable members of the UCLG Africa, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Habaria usubuhi. Mr. President and Your Excellency, let me take this opportunity to thank the organizers who have worked very hard with the support of many young people in the city of Kisumu to make this summit possible. I always look forward to meeting young people, especially women and girls, whose future is intimately tied to the United Nations Human Settlement Agenda. When a young child born this year celebrates her 18th birthday, she will join other Africans in building an urban future. More likely than not, it will be in an intermediate city. By 2050, 50% of all Africans will live in areas. She will be among the additional 1.4 billion people that will be born or will migrate to urban settlement. I would like also to try to imagine that what future will be like for our young women and young boys born in 2022 today. Today, more than 64% of the urban population in Africa live in informal settlements. There is a deficit of housing and housing finance, with only 15% of urban dwellers in Africa able to afford to purchase their own homes. Depending on where our young lady is born, it will be a major battle to get a job, own a home, and start a family. This is the urban future she will have if we do nothing to change the urban agenda in Africa. What is the role of the intermediate cities? Your Excellency, Mr. President, I would like to recognize your contribution to Africa and the people of Kenya, your foresight and investment made by the government of Kenya in housing, infrastructure, industry, and job creation will be felt many decades to come. You have successfully created an abode of peace and development in East Africa, a model for a continent and the rest of us in the developing world. Congratulations to you, Mr. President. Thank you for taking the initiative to host this important summit during the unprecedented times when the world is experiencing the effect of what I call the confluence of the three C's: climate, conflict, and COVID-19. This perfect storm is increasing the social economic vulnerability of cities, often overlook our intermediate cities. Too small to be made a national priority, but not big enough to be independently resilient. Kenya, under your leadership, is showing the way to foster closer cooperation and resource allocation between national and local government. This is helping to deliver resources to communities most in need. In the last 50 years, the United Nations in Africa have contributed to ensuring that urban communities have had greater access to basic services, transport infrastructure, and now digital connectivity. Our engagement with more than 30 countries in Africa has given us opportunities to foster collaboration with both national and local governments towards prosperous, safe, and resilient cities in Africa, with the support of the development of national urban policies in 20 countries in Africa. I would like to appreciate the collaboration with the government of Kenya at both national and country level in the sector of housing, physical planning, promoting resilience for the urban poor, waste management, and on the Blue Economy initiative for coastal cities planning being jointly carried out by UN Habitat and UNEP to boost the circular economy with the financial support of the European Union. I cannot overemphasize our great collaboration with Kisumu County on the lakefront development, on municipal revenue enhancement, and on local economic development for long-term recovery from COVID-19. And I believe the new United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework under leadership of the UN Resident Coordinator will foster further collaboration with the government of Kenya and will offer an opportunity to the whole UN family to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals in Kenya. Let me also highlight the UN strategic plan and our focus on housing, Mr. President, climate adaptation, and localization of the Sustainable Development Goals. I understand that we must not leave our rural communities. The first goal of the UN Habitat Strategy Plan is all about urban and rural linkages. This is why we are supporting this summit wholeheartedly. Mr. President, 65 of my staff are here in this Kisumu Africities. That shows the commitment of UN Habitat to you. We believe that the transformation will come from the intermediate cities. It is not about reversing urbanization, but what we need to do is to make it equitable. Let me also appreciate the collaboration with your UCLG Africa on capacity development for local government and our recent collaboration jointly with UNECA on voluntary local reviews. These include local governments to actively participate in SDG reporting. The participation of local government has deepened our understanding about socio-economic impact of COVID-19, allowing government to be more targeted in their resource allocation to deliver help to those the most in need. I hope that the ongoing joint work in Kisumu on local economic development can be scaled up in the country and at the regional level. We should remind ourselves that ultimately the goal for all of us is to see an African continent which shows inclusive growth and sustainable development, social transformation, and improvement in the standard of living and quality of life in both rural and urban areas. To accelerate the implementation of the SDG 2030 and the African Union Agenda 2063, we all need to work together. The United Nations, other stakeholders, including national and local governments, non-state actors, and including the private sectors. I look forward to seeing the conclusion of the summit translated into action in the 11th session of the World Urban Forum in Katowice, Poland on the 26th to 30th of June this year, and we can conclude the commitments of this summit on intermediate cities in Katowice declared action. As I conclude, let us recall the young woman born in 2022 in my earlier part of my speech. I am confident that if she is fortunate to be born in Kenya, and she will have a strong foundation to get a good education, a steady job, and opportunity one day, Mr. President, to be the first woman president of the country. So, Mr. President, thank you for your support you have shown to UN Habitat and our mandate, more importantly, for your leadership as a champion for sustainable urbanization in Africa. It is our hope that urbanization as a vehicle for economic growth in Africa and will be featured in an African Union summit to come. Wishing you all a successful 9th edition of the Africities Summit here in Kisumu. Thank you. Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Maimuna Mood Sharif, the Undersecretary, Executive Director of the United Nations Human Settlement Program, Nairobi. Your Excellency, the Permanent Presidential Music Commission has organized for us a production of the theme song. Welcome the production team.
From north to south, from east to west, we have the power to rise. Kisumu dala. From north to south, from east to west, we have Africities. Seleni tujiunge, Kisumu pacho, Kisumu dala. Kisumu pacho, Kisumu pacho. Oh, Kisumu pacho, Kisumu pacho.
Thank you so much to our production team, the Permanent Presidential Music Commission, and the Kisumu County for that well-elaborate theme song. Let's applaud them with a more loud applause. Thank you. Your Excellency, allow me now to request we focus on the screens for video messages. I'll request that we play them back to back. We'll start with the Africities Ambassador Lupita Nyong'o, to be followed by United Nations Deputy Secretary General, Excellency Mrs. Amina Mohammed, and the U.S. Special President Envoy on Climate, John Kerry. The video messages.
Firsthand. It has so much to offer, and I can potential. Hello all, and welcome to the 9th Africities Summit in Kisumu. My name is Lupita Nyong'o, and I have the great honor of being the Africities Goodwill Ambassador this year. Now, Kisumu County is my ancestral home, and I have witnessed its potential firsthand. It has so much to offer, and I can finally see its vibrant energy being tapped with the radical leadership of its current governor, my father, Professor Peter Anyang Nyong'o. Well, I'm biased. You will see for yourself. I'm honored to stand by his side now as he hosts this important summit, as he has so often stood by mine. I could not think of a better place to come together to discuss tangible solutions for the challenges facing Africa and its intermediary cities than the Africities Summit. Over the next 5 days, you will participate in interactive sessions. You will hear from inspirational speakers, take workshops, implement projects, and dream up the Africa we want to see. One where everyone has access to food, healthcare, education, housing, public safety, and peace. I wish I could be there in person with you all, but I will be on this journey with you from afar as we lay the groundwork for Africa's renaissance. Now, let's begin.
Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal, Your Excellency Moussa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo, Excellencies, friends and colleagues, it is my great honor to address the opening session of the Africities Summit. Thank you to the Government of Kenya, to the County of Kisumu, and the United Cities and Local Governments, Africa, for hosting this important summit in the wonderful city of Kisumu. We are meeting in challenging times, marked by multiple interlinked crises and a proliferation of conflicts. At the same time, the world is in the midst of key transitions, from energy to the digital world. Among the emerging trendy lines, urbanization is a defining megatrend of the 21st century. We need to take advantage of it. The recent review of the New Urban Agenda provides insights into what a bottom-up approach to sustainable development in Africa could look like. Recognizing the centrality of the New Urban Agenda to other global agendas, notably our efforts to combat climate change. Acknowledging that COVID-19 has deepened inequalities and elevated the importance of cities. And addressing the gaps in capacities and financing countries face to achieve the sustainable urbanization. Africa is projected to have the world's fastest growing urban population over the next 30 years. Cities are producing more than 60% of GDP in Africa, and the rapid trend of urbanization across the continent offers new opportunities to accelerate economic and social transformations. Equitable, inclusive, and prosperous cities need to harness the full potential and participation of all citizens, especially women and our youth. The power of community action, especially youth action, which is our most important and dynamic human resource, can make a difference. While large and megacities will continue to attract people, effectively harnessing urbanization processes hinges on intermediary cities like Kisumu. Indeed, these cities must be at the heart of national urban strategies. Health emergencies, the climate crises, and conflicts are increasingly urban phenomena. Local governments in Africa must be provided with the means and the resources to confront these challenges and deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals. Successful implementation of the SDGs requires unprecedented ownership by local actors. Together with UCLG and other partners, the United Nations has launched a Local 2030 Coalition, a platform designed to support and accelerate SDG delivery at the local level. We invite all of you to join this effort. Acting together, we can leverage well-planned and well-managed cities as engines for sustainable development and innovation here and across Africa. I thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share a few thoughts as you gather for this year's United Cities and Local Governments Africa Conference. To the presidents, mayors, and everyone else who has gathered for this meeting, thank you for your leadership and your dedication to this issue. It's fitting that you are all gathering some 6 months before Egypt will host COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, and that you'll focus the world's attention on the tremendous risks and opportunities ahead for Africa's growing cities of all sizes. I'm particularly grateful that you're shining a light on the role subnational actors can and frankly must play in the climate fight. Local leaders and community groups have always helped lead us forward on this issue, ever since I can remember being part of helping to organize the first Earth Day in 1970. And that is why, in the Paris Agreement, at COP26 in Glasgow and elsewhere, the world has recognized the critical role that you must continue to play in this fight. Here in Africa, you see the urgency of this moment. You're living it. You know the world is simply not moving fast enough to avoid the worst consequences of the climate crisis and to hold the global temperature rise within the 1.5 degree limit. We're simply not getting this job done globally in the way that we ought to be. And you also know that you and your citizens are all on the front lines of the crisis. 17 of the world's 20 most climate vulnerable countries can be found in Africa. And that's the case even though 48 nations in sub-Saharan Africa are responsible for only 0.55% of total emissions. The most recent IPCC report told us the climate crisis is already here. You already knew that because you lived through it. Extreme heat waves, devastating droughts, changing planting seasons, and more punishing storms. But here's the good news. The IPCC also told us that we still have time to secure a cleaner, healthier, safer planet for all of us. That work starts here in Africa, with the world's fastest growing populations and economies. Our climate crisis is also an opportunity to seize smarter growth and better jobs. Take adaptation as an example. Preparing people for this warmer world can save lives and livelihoods, but it's also just plain old common sense. Roads, bridges, and ports can only spur economic growth and reduce poverty next year if they are built to survive the storms of tomorrow. Critical efforts are already underway in Africa, from Rwandan farmers using more accurate forecasting to Tunisian ports preparing for rising seas and flood risks. To support the adaptation work we have to engage in, at COP26, President Biden announced his President's Emergency Plan for Adaptation and Resilience. It's known as PREPARE. PREPARE brings together our diplomatic, development, and technical expertise to help more than 500 million people, including many millions in Africa, manage the impacts of the climate crisis by 2030. When it comes to finance, President Biden also pledged last year to quadruple U.S. international public climate finance to over $11 billion per year by 2024. And the private sector is finally showing up with the money that we need to invest in order to accelerate this transition, including in Africa, where multi-trillion-dollar industries are being created. In all of this work, we will continue to follow your lead. Over 1,000 cities and local governments, including many of Africa's major urban centers, have now committed to the Race to Zero and Race to Resilience campaigns. From strengthening green buildings in Cape Town to building water resilience in Addis and Kigali, you are showing us what is both necessary and possible. My friends, we know that human choices have caused this crisis, and therefore we know that human choices can put us back on the right path. That is exactly what you are helping to do today. So on behalf of President Biden and the entire United States government, thank you for your partnership, your friendship, and most of all, your leadership and your dedication to this effort. We are going to win this fight. And when we do, it will be because of leaders like you in Africa and across the planet. Thank you.
Welcome to the second most important democratic organization on the African continent after the African Union. Welcome to United Cities and Local Governments of Africa, the voice of local Africa. The umbrella organization for African local governments was founded in 2005. 5 regional offices have been established in Pretoria, Libreville, Nairobi, Accra, Cairo. Its headquarters are in the city of Rabat, the Kingdom of Morocco, where it enjoys diplomatic status as a Pan-African international organization. Established as the African section of the World Organization, UCLG, United Cities and Local Governments, UCLG Africa now boasts a membership of 51 national associations of local governments from all regions of Africa, as well as 2,000 direct members that have more than 100,000 inhabitants. As such, the organization represents nearly 350 million African citizens. The vision of UCLG Africa is building African unity and driving African development through the grassroots. GADD-EPA lays out the objectives of the organization: promote decentralization, structuring local government associations, building an Africa of peoples and territories, organize exchange platforms such as the Africities Summit, the Governance, Advocacy, and Decentralized Development Program for Africa. GADD-EPA is the strategic vision for UCLG Africa, which aims to build Africa from the roots. UCLG Africa has developed a series of programs and interventions, including the mobilization of strategies, methods, and tools to support our members under our 7 areas of intervention: local economy and finance, climate, biodiversity and food security, gender and youth, basic service and sustainable development goal, migration, culture, peace and security. 10 reasons to join UCLG Africa. Support to decentralization, multiple expertise, training, projects, financing, coaching, territorial assistance, advocacy, dialogue between elected representatives, networks. Welcome to United Cities and Local Governments of Africa, the voice of local Africa.
Let us appreciate that well presentation. Thank you. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, with your permission, allow me, with all humility and my singular duty, to invite the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Moussa Faki, to make his remarks. Welcome, Your Excellency. Let's appreciate His Excellency as he takes the podium.
Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Excellency President Faure, former President of the Seychelles, Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Special African Union Envoy for Infrastructure, Madame Christine Mban-Doutoumé, Présidente des cités et gouvernements locaux unis d'Afrique, Ms. Maimouna Mohamed Sherif, Under Secretary General and Executive Director of UN Habitat, Professor Anyana Ngo, Governor of Kisumu County, distinguished ministers, regional governors and mayors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, President Uhuru Kenyatta, dear brother, for inviting me to this auspicious official opening of the 9th Summit of Africa Cities held in this magnificent intermediary city of Kisumu. President, you show once more your leadership and dedication for Kenya and for the implementation of African Union Agenda 2063. And thank you for encouraging me to speak English. I would like to congratulate the United Cities and Local Government of Africa, the Government of the Republic of Kenya, governors of Kenya and the Kisumu County Government for the unprecedented organization of the summit and the warm hospitality extended to us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Union embraces the theme of this summit of Africities, of the role of intermediary cities in the implementation of Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and Agenda 2063 of the African Union. Intermediary cities have a crucial role on urbanization policy and have become a renewed subject of interest for governments, international organizations, and academics. Intermediary cities are growing fast and have the greatest potential to shape the urban future, and yet they are often overlooked. Much attention has been paid to capital cities, which are the political, social, and economic centers of a country. As a result, our economies fail to realize the benefits that a more balanced spatial development and intercity collaboration can generate. The growth of intermediary cities implies an increase in wealth, inequalities, need for housing, infrastructure and urban services, pollution, need for decent jobs, increased waste production, and therefore, the role needs to be recognized and clarified. If left alone to manage themselves without a clear role, cities will manifest into chaotic development. Cities have their unique challenges and potentials. Therefore, clarification of their role should take into consideration their peculiarities. Ladies and gentlemen, I am particularly pleased to see that the summit has chosen the theme linking the global UN agenda to Africa's agenda as a template of how to think global while acting locally to African aspiration and distinct cultural realities. Africa, like the rest of the world, has committed itself to the implementation of the United Nations agenda and the new urban agenda. Furthermore, the continent's agenda 2063 outlines not only our aspiration for the future, but also identifies key flagship programs which can boost Africa's economic growth and development and lead to the rapid transformation of the continent. The three agendas have powerfully captured the role of cities and their envisioned cities that fulfill their social, economic, ecological, and political function in an inclusive manner. At the continent level, the African Union has developed a regional framework for the implementation of the new urban agenda. The AU has developed also the African Charter on Values and Principles of Decentralization, Local Governance, and Local Development to facilitate implementation of decentralization, which remains a challenge in many countries. This instrument serves as a sound foundation for guiding the development of our cities, as well as clarifying your role as local authorities in intermediary cities. With your experience and key role as mayors and governors, it is now up to you to make sure that these valuable tools become an integral part of your urban management to ensure the decentralization and urbanization we want. As you deliberate here on the shores of Lake Victoria, which is both a trade route, transnational water highway for cities beyond Kisumu, it is also a reminder of the impacts of climate change on our lives and livelihoods. I also want to remind you that regional integration is a fundamental objective of Agenda 2063. The African Free Trade Area Agreement, AFCFTA, can be seen in action here in Kisumu, a vibrant city that trades with neighboring counties and countries, facilitating the free movement of goods and people for the shared prosperity far beyond the shores of Lake Victoria. Ladies and gentlemen, may solidarity remains the engine that drives the African city experience, that of community and cooperation. As I conclude, it is my hope that as you share experiences and take stock of how local governments, policymakers, and citizens are working together to meet this aspiration, that they remain underpinned by the principle of African solidarity that we brought with us from our villages. It is my appeal, therefore, to you, honorable ministers, mayors, and senior government officials, to prioritize the signing and ratification of the Charter on the Principle of Decentralization and local governance and that of public service and administration. I wish you fruitful deliberations and thank you for your kind attention. Merci, asante, erokamano.
Thank you. Thank you so much, His Excellency Musa Faki, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Thank you for your candid words, sir. Your Excellency, it's now my humble duty to invite the Cabinet Secretary for Defense and the Acting Cabinet Secretary for Devolution, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, to invite Your Excellency to deliver your opening official address. Welcome, Cabinet Secretary.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Musa Faki, the Chairperson of the AU, who has really captured all the protocols here that I wish to adopt. Ladies and gentlemen, may I take this opportunity to welcome you all to Kisumu County and Kisumu City, to join my brother, Professor Anyang', the governor of this great county, who has welcomed you here and with whom I'm host. And I want to say that I have a very long speech here, but my role really was just to welcome you all and to welcome His Excellency the President to speak to you. But I noticed when Maimuna was speaking, there was a lot of excitement when she talked about the possibility of having a woman president someday. And my guest sitting next to me were asking me, why are people so excited in Kenya? So I was saying, if you are Kenyan, I would have asked you, are you strangers in Jerusalem? Because yesterday something historical happened in our country. And Your Excellency Musa Faki, you are special envoy for infrastructure, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga nominated a woman known as Martha Karua to be the next Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. That informs you why there's so much excitement in Kenya today. Then, apart from Maimuna, as she was speaking, I noticed a lot of excitement again when Amina Mohammed, Her Excellency, the Deputy Secretary General, spoke about intermediary cities and urban centers being the engines of economic transformation of Africa, of growing Africa from the bottom up. So someone asked me, why are people excited about that? Because we have an election coming around the corner. When you speak about bottom up, it might mean something very different, but I don't think that is what Amina Mohammed meant. She's saying the true meaning of bottom up is devolution. It's bringing more resources down to our counties, to our governments, and turn them into engines of socioeconomic transformation of our country and our counties. And under the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta, that is what we have been doing in Kenya for the last 10 years. And we want to welcome you so that we share with you our experience in devolution and in decentralization. And that is what we'll be doing in the course of today. But I just wanted to also welcome you to Kisumu as a city that has great history. Many of you, maybe for the first time, you are coming to this beautiful lakeside city and you're wondering where it has been all this time. Because in Africa, we've been looking at our capital cities. Kenya was honored in 2006 to host Africities, but that was in Nairobi. And we've been to the other capitals of Africa where we've held Africities, and we're very grateful to UCLGA for giving us the opportunity as Kenya, as Kisumu with Professor Anyang', to be the first intermediary city in Africa to host Africities.
The scripture said, who much is given, much is expected. Indeed, you put your faith in us, but you also gave us a lot of responsibility. And we know much is expected of us. And I must thank all those we've worked together to ensure that this day is a success. And I must thank, starting with Professor Nyong'o and his team. You have done well, Prof. If I was a voter in Kisumu, I would have said, teach tire tano tena. You have done extremely well. But my colleagues in national government, in cabinet, I must thank you, because we have walked a long way under the leadership of our president to make this a success. And I want to single out my colleague C.S. Macharia, with whom we have worked, with his PSs in charge of housing, PS Hinga, with the PSs in charge of roads, PSs in charge of transport to expand our airport here, to do our roads, and to make this day a success. I must also thank my PS, Korir. I think he's here with us. We've done a wonderful, wonderful job with our devolution team to make this day a success. And before I invite His Excellency the President, just to give a little history about Kisumu. This city has a great history, like other cities in Africa, in Europe, and across the world. It has a long history that stretches back to the Victorian era. We had two Englishmen who came here in 1858, Speke and Barton. And they said they had discovered Lake Victoria. They named it after their queen. Before they came, the community living here, the Luo community, called Lake Victoria Namlolwe. The Luyas lived here, they called it Enyanja ya Walude. When you go to the Rwandese, they call the lake Nyanza. But Speke and Barton came and said they were the first people to discover Lake Victoria, and they named it after their queen. That is how Lake Victoria came to be. The second thing that happened was the British now came in to open up the hinterland of Africa to connect the port of Mombasa and the port of Kisumu. And this is one lesson we want to take away as Africa, the importance of infrastructure in developing intermediary cities, in growing intermediary cities. Indeed, Kisumu grew as an accident, and it came out of a huge debate in the British Parliament when Henry Lobaloch called this a gigantic folly. Building a train from Mombasa to Kisumu looked like an impossibility then. In 1896 they started, and it was opposed by the British Parliament, but it went on through a lot of challenges. Winston Churchill came and said this was not a folly. In fact, it was a brilliant conception. And it was an art of the British tradition of muddling through things. So they muddled through a lot of politics back home to get on the ground. There were lions who were man-eaters in Savo. They muddled through the Savo. They had tsetse fly attacks, a lot of disease. They muddled through it. They went through ravines, valleys, faced the Maasai warriors, very fierce Nandi warriors. But they muddled through it, and by 1901, they arrived here in Kisumu. It was then called Port Florence. As we speak today, this is one of the most transformative infrastructural developments in Africa. We are happy that after our president took over, we have continued to invest as national government in this infrastructure. We have a standard gauge railway that has been built during this administration, all the way from Mombasa. It's now in Naivasha. It will come to Kisumu. We know that it was not easy to do that, but again, we are transforming this city because of that infrastructure. Investing in ports, as Musa Faki has said, it's about ports, it's about roads, it's about the rail, it's about water infrastructure. And this is one lesson we want to take away as we look at the future of intermediary cities in our continent to transform it. So I want to thank you. There will be many sessions where we want to share experiences about our journey in devolution, about the success of decentralization in this country, There are many breakaway sessions, there are many delegations that we have engaged. Please take your time, let us engage, share experiences and learn from each other. Let us also look at how we can look at the challenges facing us, how we can overcome these challenges, and how we can address the vulnerabilities that are going to face our populations as they move into their cities. Experts are saying by 2050, we'll have over 60% of our populations in these intermediary cities. So we must prepare for that. And the role of intermediary cities in realization of the AU Agenda 2063 and the EU Agenda 2030 is at the center of our discussions today. Please let us share, but also take time to enjoy the beautiful lake out there, Lake Victoria. It's the biggest tropical lake in Africa and the second largest freshwater lake in the world after Lake Superior. Take your time and enjoy our hospitality. And it's now my pleasure and honor to invite His Excellency the President to address us. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you. Your Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, my dear friend and brother, Danny Fo, the President of the United Cities and Local Government of Africa, Christine Mba Dutume, the Governor of Kisumu, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, all Excellencies, delegates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by saying it is a great honor to welcome you all to Kenya and to our lake city of Kisumu for this 9th edition of the Africities Summit. Indeed, I join everybody else in thanking the county government of Kisumu, led by Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, and indeed the people of Kisumu for hosting this conference, and indeed for the warm reception and hospitality which I am sure they will extend to all our visitors from across the globe. We are convening here at a very unique time in the history of our region and the world, and our efforts to build our economies back from the devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic have been slowed by a myriad of events on the international scene, events which in many circumstances have put multilateralism as we know it under immense stress. However, I do believe that this summit reaffirms our resilience and our shared common goal as brothers and sisters within the African continent of making our towns, our cities, and indeed our metropolitan areas better. We have amongst us delegates from approximately 110 countries from all over the world. And I believe that this is a summit not just of thinkers, but also of doers. And we are therefore called upon to bring tangible, practical, and sustainable solutions to the challenges facing Africa's urban areas. Recognizing that this noble goal is not a task solely for governments, we also have amongst us members from civil society organizations, representatives of our African diaspora, economic actors, policy experts, researchers, academicians, financial institutions, as well as development partners. These diverse actors all share in our objective of strengthening the role of local and regional governments in the development of our continent, as well as accelerating the integration and unity of Africa by creating linkages between nations and cities on our continent. So on behalf of the people of Kenya, I am particularly grateful to the leadership of the United Cities and local governments of Africa for choosing Kisumu as a host city for this year's Africities Summit, the first such intermediary city to host such a conference. For centuries, this particular intermediary city of Kisumu has been a melting pot of different cultures, a hub for trade, and a gateway into Eastern and Central Africa. And so in this context, I do invite you all to join in this continental moment of taking stock and reflecting, learning, as well as planning under this year's theme of the role of intermediary cities of Africa in the implementation of our Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and our very own African Union Agenda 2063. This year's summit is most apt as the summit comes at a time that is critical when our continent of Africa is facing rapid urbanization and the challenges of future cities are increasingly coming into sharp focus, more so after the shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic. Cities and local authorities around the world have played a key role in the response to COVID-19. They were our first line of defense. They were at the forefront of our prevention and containment measures, the vanguard of our humanitarian response, as well as taking the first steps towards building back livelihoods post-COVID. Local authorities therefore proved to be an indispensable ring in the governance chain and an instrumental part of pandemic prevention and response actions. Consequently, time is ripe for scaling up the role of intermediary cities as the next frontiers of African urbanization and development. I say this because in Africa, an unprecedented rate of urbanization has propelled intermediary cities to stand at approximately 1,086. These intermediary cities like Kisumu, where we are today, are home to approximately 174 million people, representing about 36% of our continent's total urban population and contributing about 40% of our continent's GDP. So as we convene to deliberate on how we can establish a shift towards a new urban paradigm and unleash the potential of intermediary cities in fostering inclusive development and the realization of our SDGs and all other social economic development initiatives, we must keep in mind that Africa is becoming increasingly urbanized. The traditional rural focus within development plans risk marginalizing a growing section of our population, one which will soon be the majority. This is not to say that our rural areas should take a back seat. Rather, it is to recognize that our development plans must be in tune with the realities of rural-urban migration and the concentration of large populations in small and often unplanned settlements in metropolitan areas. This calls for proper planning to create smart cities that meet future urbanization challenges, plans that address the emerging needs related to food security, health, shelter, environmental conservation, as well as infrastructure. The need for proper urban planning was clearly demonstrated during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, when it became necessary to support those living in informal settlements in our cities and urban areas with food rations, as well as the provision of sanitary facilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, the challenge of our time is therefore to make our intermediary cities and municipalities sustainable and fit for all our citizens. Accordingly, this summit has the task of providing the continent with a comprehensive and achievable roadmap on how our intermediary cities can contribute towards the implementation of the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, as well as our own African Union Agenda 2063. Here in Kenya, for example, the national government has over the last 5 years been implementing projects and programs geared towards improvement of lives of our people through the achievement of the SDGs. This has been under the auspices of our National Economic Blueprint, our Kenya Vision 2030 and its medium-term plan, the Big Four, and the agenda espouses provision of a decent roof over many more heads at affordable costs, at affordable health care for all, value addition by increasing manufacturing and jobs, as well as ensuring food security for all our people. We have also embarked on a slum upgrade program that is spread across our country, notably in our capital city of Nairobi and the intermediary cities of Mombasa and Kisumu, as well as our youngest city, that being the city of Nakuru. These concerted actions have been through the Kenya Devolution Support Program, the Urban Support Program, the Kenya Slum Upgrade Program, and the Kenya Informal Settlement Improvements Program. So to achieve the goals of this convention, we must make this, the 9th edition of the Africities Summit, a questioning summit. And in that regard, I would like to propose a 12-point questioning framework for all participants. And this framework should guide us in understanding the problem and charting the way forward. Firstly, how do we reinvigorate the management of urbanization, the electricity feed, provide affordable and inclusive transport, quality and accessible education and health care, and improve the standard and sanitation of extremely human capital, administration, view sustaining the momentum so far gathered towards the achievement of our SDG. Fifth, what is the best way for us to create and sustain governments, the accelerated growth of decentralization and evolution across our continent without compromising our national cohesion? Sixth, how do we reposition technology and connectivity as a drive to the achievement of SDGs in providing opportunities in our urban areas? Seventh, how can we enhance the voice of key stakeholders, including civil society, the private sector, academia, grassroots organizations, in providing capacity and impetus in the implementation of our SDGs? 8, how do we increase awareness of the negative effects of climate change and guarantee environmental equity for future generations. 9. What legal and policy frameworks should we establish to foster the robust and sustainable development of intermediary cities? And 10. What incentives should we put in place to enhance the competitiveness of our intermediary cities, new frontiers and hubs for innovation, trade, and tourism? 11. What critical steps can we put in place to enhance disaster management in our urban areas, including those that may deal with pandemics similar to COVID-19? And 12, as we scale up and develop urban areas in general and in particular our intermediary cities, what strategies and policies are required to confront the threats of radicalization and terrorism, especially in the urban areas, including our intermediary cities? So, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remarks, I would like to underscore that this must be a decade of action. The time is ripe for scaling up our efforts in support of intermediary cities and also in promoting greater synergies between local, national, and international efforts geared towards accelerating the realization of our SDGs. In every community and nation in Africa, there are sayings that recognize that in unity there is strength. And there is no challenge, no matter how seemingly insurmountable, can prevail over unified and united actions. I therefore urge all of you today to unite in the face of one of the greatest challenges of our time. And I have no doubt that through considered and synergetic actions, Africa's intermediary cities will play their rightful role in driving the implementation of Agenda 2030 and the African Union Agenda 2063. So, ladies and gentlemen, with those few remarks, it is indeed my great pleasure and honor to declare this 9th Africities Summit officially open, and I really look forward to the fruitful deliberations that I'm sure will take place here in this great city of Kisumu. Thank you, and God bless Africa. Thank you very much.
May we give His Excellency a Mohatia clap as he takes his seat. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your candid words and well-presented remarks to all of us. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Please be seated. With your permission, sir, Your Excellency, we will now move to our next segment of our program, which is the high-level dialogue on infrastructure and urban development. And I kindly wish to introduce the moderator and invite him to the podium. And that is none other than the Kisumu City County Governor, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, who will take us through the next program. Welcome, Prof. The video.
Welcome to Kisumu, Kenya's third largest city and the capital of Kisumu County. The lakeside city is a place of passion, pleasure, and fun, where humanity interacts with development, where rural hinterland interacts with the city.
It is very easy to move in and out of Kisumu.
The road network is top-notch. The city is strategically placed. It is the gateway to Western Kenya and the entire Great Lakes region, thanks to Kisumu International Airport, Kisumu Port, and rail transport.
The whole package for Kisumu is ready. We're ready to say we want to be a significant city in Kenya, in Africa, and in the world at large.
And ready indeed for the upcoming Africities conference.
Having a conference like that with about 8,000 to 10,000 people visiting Kisumu is a great economic stimulus.
My administration, Governor, will extend to the county government of Kisumu every support in order for you to be able to showcase Kenya and Kisumu to Africa and the rest of the world.
There is ample accommodation in Kisumu, from high-end hotels and resorts to guest houses and apartments.
We've got several hotels that have opened up into the region. In Kisumu alone, we have 324 hotels.
There are also so many magical places within and around the city, with those in the neighboring counties within reach. The presence of local and international commercial banks, supermarkets, malls, and open-air markets is a clear indication of a city ripe for business.
The word Kisumu came from the Luo word to trade, or to do commerce, or to borrow.
Hospitals are being upgraded through the Ministry of Health and Public Sanitation.
Kisumu is going to be a buzzing port city, and therefore that means there's a lot of opportunities.
In recreation, Kisumu All-Stars Football Club stands out. Not to forget hockey, volleyball, golf, basketball, and handball, among others. Key educational institutions include the University of Nairobi, Maseno University, Kenyatta University, Mount Kenya University, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Uzima University, and Kisumu National Polytechnic. Kisumu County in general is rich in agriculture too, with rice farming and sugarcane farming contributing to the county's socio-economic growth and has room for potential investors.
People are positive about investing in Kisumu in all areas. In agriculture, in industry, in manufacturing, maritime transport, housing is a big area of investment. In tourism.
Kisumu, the land of passion, welcomes you to Africities 2022 as we celebrate metropolises of the future.
Let us welcome Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. We've seen the hospitality of our county.
Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Before I call the panel, whose keynote speaker will be the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, our former Prime Minister, I'd like to confess to His Excellency the President that I was very jealous of his speech. It is professorial, and as a professor, I wished I had delivered the same speech. I'm also very jealous of my friend Eugene Wamalwa for being so spontaneous, but so factual and so analytical. I guess this cabinet has become a professorial cabinet. But let me assure you that the next cabinet of Raila Amolo Odinga and Martha Karua will be a cabinet of brains and deeds. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here to introduce the high-level dialogue on infrastructure and urban development, whose brainchild was the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who will lead the panel discussion. In this panel, high-level panel, we have with us as participants in this panel the chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency Moussa Faki, who has already spoken here. His Excellency Danny Faure, former president of Seychelles, who is actually a Ugandan-born citizen and is a native of East Africa par excellence. I would also like to introduce here Madame Maimuna Mohammed Sharif. She's already spoken here, but as you know, as she was speaking, she's the executive director of UN Habitat, and UN Habitat has been very keenly involved in developing infrastructure in Kisumu and other urban areas. In Kenya, we have had two gurus of infrastructure. When we were in the Kibaki cabinet, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga was the Minister for Housing, Public Works and Roads. And I assure you that the roads expansion you are seeing today under His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta was started then. When I was becoming governor in the county of Kisumu, I had a manifesto. And I said that I would like to expand maritime transport on the lake. The day I was elected, I went to the lake and looked at it and the harbor, and I said, what mistake did I make? This is a matter of task I will never undertake. Thanks to the Prime Minister and the President. If you go to the port today, it's a wonderful work of a modern harbor that has already started increasing maritime transport on the lake. And we do believe that it forms the backbone of the economy of Kisumu. I'd like to give applause to the two gentlemen. It is this keen relationship between infrastructure and urban development that we see all the time. As a road is being built, markets emerge. These markets later will become urban centers. If they do so spontaneously, we have problems. If they do so with a planned future, we have opportunities. The essence of this panel today is exactly to discuss that possibilities of exploiting opportunities given by the infrastructure already being developed in a country like Kenya to be the backbone of the provision of sustainable and resilient urban areas in the future of our nation. Thank you very much. Let me now invite here the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga to come and take his chair and give his speech subsequently to the panel. Let me also invite to come and take the chair the former president of Seychelles. Let me invite also the chairperson of the African Union, Mr. Faki, and Madam Amuna, to come and sit over here so that you can see them as the discussions goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Your Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, the Chairperson of the African Union, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Like those who have spoken before me, equally very delighted to welcome you here to the city of Kisumu. The minister has told you that Kisumu was once called Port Florence. What he did not tell you was that Florence was the wife of the engineer, Mr. Patterson, who eventually killed the man-eaters of Savo. And she was the one who laid the last sleeper at the railway at the port of Kisumu. She was called Florence Patterson, hence the town was called Port Florence. Now I'm going to just make a few remarks about infrastructure that will guide our discussion here this morning at the panel. We recognize infrastructure development as a priority key ingredient for economic development, regional trade, and integration of the continent. Infrastructure is what will make or break the continental free trade area. I was appointed by His Excellency Mr. Mohammed as the African Union High Representative on Infrastructural Development. What are my functions? I act as a catalyst to ensure that the infrastructural projects which have been identified by the African Union are implemented on a timely basis. The importance of infrastructure has already been mentioned. I want to say that rightfully, therefore, giving Africa a world-class infrastructure is enshrined in the African Union Agenda 2063. It is projected that by the year 2050, that is about 28 years from now, Africa's population will hit 2 billion people. Well over this, that's 50% of the 2 billion people will be youth below the age of 18, and most of them are going to be living in cities. It's therefore obvious that we are already out of time to have our cities and urban areas connected by road, rail, air, ICT, and waterways. That also means we are not prepared for meaningful industrialization, urbanization, and economic growth that all depend on requisite infrastructure. As you know, in 2018, I accepted this appointment. In the same year, the African countries agreed to establish the African Continental Free Trade Area. According to INECA, the African Free Trade Area will increase the value of inter-African trade by between 15 to 25%. Right now, Africa trades very little with itself. It is estimated that intra-African trade is just about 15%. Inter-European trade is 70%. Inter-Asian trade stands at 50%. Even South America stands at 25%. Now, why does Africa trade very little with itself? But the major reason is infrastructure. They don't have adequate infrastructure that connects these African countries. As an example, Kenya lies on the East African coast. Next to Kenya, there's a country called Central African Republic. Between Kenya and the Central African Republic, there's only South Sudan. Yet, for Kenya to trade with the Central African Republic, you need to find a ship that will be able to take your goods across the Cape and along the West African coast, the Cameroonian port of Douala, and then by road to Bangui in Central African Republic. The French and the British are much faster there than you. And that's why there in Bangui, they drink Kenyan tea, Christian as English breakfast tea, or French coffee. So what we want to talk about today is what AU is trying to do. And we are dealing here with major infrastructure projects which have been identified under what we call PIDA, Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. This consists of highways, high-speed railway network, the ICT network, that is fiber optic network, the continent, the open air skies, the continent, and the waterways. These are the major projects in the continent. There are several highways that connect different African cities. You've got Dakar to Lagos, Lagos to Mombasa. You've got Cape to Cairo, Tunis to the Cape, Dakar through Khartoum to Djibouti, and there are missing links along those highways. There are several others. There are a total of 40 different highways that we're talking about. And then there's a high-speed railway network that connects different parts of the continent. An example we want to give you here is called LAPSET. The Lamu Port, South Sudan, and the Ethiopia Transit Corridor. That project, when fully implemented, phase 1 and phase 2, because phase 1 is Lamu Port to Juba in South Sudan, the other one to Addis Ababa. The second one goes through Central African Republic all the way to Cameroon and Port of Kribi, creating a land bridge that connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean and opening up the interior of the continent to wider trade, to Chad, to Niger, to Congo Republic and DRC, to Sudan, and then on to Egypt. There are several others that are planned. In as far as energy is concerned, Africa is energy deficient. Right now, the total installed capacity in the continent of Africa is 145 gigawatts. That is almost equal to South Korea's 130 gigawatts. But South Korea has only got a population of 52 million people. Africa has got 1 billion people. Meaning that we are not fully prepared for our modernization, which is going to come whether we like it or not. So we need, therefore, to invest more in energy generation as well. We are planning also to construct 19 new ports on the continent. Also, about 20 new airports, improving the air transport in the continent. Currently, Africa, the air transport in Africa is too expensive. Some of it because of bureaucracies in the continent, and some of it because of lack of proper infrastructure on the ground. This is another area where we need more investment. So I want to say, conclude here by saying that Africa has a need for more investment in infrastructure development. There is capacity deficiency. It is estimated by African Development Bank that Africa needs about $170 billion per annum to be able to meet our infrastructure needs. So the deficit stands at about $110 billion. And that's why I have proposed the African Infrastructure Fund. And we've been working here with several institutions to create this fund. We have established that there are a lot of capital lying idle on the continent. Sovereign funds, pension funds, and insurance funds. So we are working towards tapping into these resources so that Africa can be self-sufficient in terms of funding, that Africa does not have to depend and rely on funding from international institutions, bilaterals, some of which proved to be very, very expensive to African countries. So with these many remarks, I'm now happy to now sit down with the panelists, then we can start this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Prime Minister. You take your seat among your colleague, the panelists. That is the Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, the High Representative of the African Union of Infrastructure. Here we have the Chairman of African Union himself, my dear friend, His Excellency Musa Faki. The first comment on infrastructure dialogue and development dialogue today, after that presentation, the Prime Minister, shall be from His Excellency Musa Faki, Chairman of AU. We shall all speak sitting here we are. You have the microphone so that we can dialogue among ourselves. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Please allow me to speak in French, and I hope there is someone who is translating. If not, Mustafa, you can proceed. Merci, Monsieur le Gouverneur. D'abord, je voudrais remercier son honorable Raila Odinga, qui a été nommé par nos soins haut représentant de l'Union africaine sur la question du développement des infrastructures. Cette décision n'a pas été prise par hasard. C'est en tenant compte du background de M. Raila Odinga que nous l'avons choisi pour ses plaidoyers importants et stratégiques pour le continent africain. Je ne sais pas s'il y a traduction. Is there any translation? C'est toi. Le développement des infrastructures sont une priorité. Je dirais même la priorité des priorités dans le continent africain. L'Union africaine a élaboré une stratégie sur le développement prioritaire des infrastructures en Afrique. À travers le NAD et les autres institutions africaines. Le constat aujourd'hui est que le continent est très peu connecté. Nous avons mis en place la zone de libre-échange continentale. Elle ne pourrait jamais être totalement opérationnelle si l'on ne connecte pas physiquement les États et les communautés économiques régionales. C'est la raison pour laquelle une des conditions de la réalisation de ce grand marché, qui est la zone de libre-échange continentale, sa réalisation ne peut être possible qu'en développant de manière conséquente les infrastructures. Les routes, les chemins de fer, les ports et les aéroports, l'énergie, les ITC, tout ceci demande des investissements. Même si les études sont prêtes, les plans sont prêts, le problème qui se pose, c'est celui du financement. Question sur laquelle a travaillé l'honorable Raila Odinga. Comment mobiliser les ressources? Il faut d'abord mobiliser les ressources internes du continent africain. Notamment les fonds de pension qui sont très importants. Comment mobiliser les secteurs privés africains? Et enfin, comment développer des partenariats publics-privés et comment mobiliser nos partenaires extérieurs dans le cadre de doter le continent d'infrastructures nécessaires. Voilà où se situe la problématique. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle je crois que l'honorable Raila Odinga est le spécialiste de la question et il a été chargé par l'Union africaine justement de trouver des pistes qui puissent nous permettre d'avancer sur ce dossier stratégique. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Makofi Kwake, please clap for him. Thank you very much. An issue, obviously, which the chairman has emphasized, which comes under the framework of the High Representative of the AU, and on which he has worked very hard, is mobilizing resources for infrastructure in Africa and coordinating planning across our nations, especially in the energy sector, where if we synergize and encourage our interdependence, we have plenty of potential in Africa to generate power and therefore use it as an important source of development and infrastructure. Mobilization of resources and partnership is important. In this regard, let me now ask His Excellency Danny Faure, former President of Seychelles, as a former president, what his experience was, and when he reflects today, what we should do to come together as Africa in this particular regard. Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, on our continent, we have institutions, some excellent institutions. We have also created our own 3 banks.
Check! Check! She's faking it! Don't believe her! Hurry, let's go.
It wasn't you. Then why would the police suspect you?
Speak! Did you do it or not?
She said Jenny was the one that assaulted her.
If you turn yourself in, you'll be convicted of assaulting Shannon. Your health condition is already deteriorating. You can't have the surgery if you're in jail.
Kwa mimi ni wewe, ningetafuta passport, nikatafuta visa, nikatafuta nyasi za watu.
Wako na baba kwa hatutaki hapa, so we don't have a choice.
Mom, that's not right.
Inajaribu kukusaidia, lakini wewe uharibu kila kitu.
Achaje! Mwachaje!
Mimi nikikwambia ufuate jambo, wewe unaona mimi mjinga sana, si ndio? Wewe huwezi kuelewana na mtu yote bila ya kutiana mangumi.
Do you think the wedding will be very elegant? I don't know. But just like the children, I'm really excited about going. Imagine her finding everything about the Honorable Mr. Gonzalo Murat. Just tell me that it's a fact, that they won't get married.
Yes, that's right. Now go away.
You can say whatever it is you like, but then I'm going ahead with a clear conscience. Get out of my way.
Don't touch me. I came to give you this. If you marry Adrian, I will use these documents to put your father in jail.
And this is Zimbabwe and Namibia. Now, for me, this infrastructure is strategic. It's so on the continent, we look at project. On the Lake Victoria, and they have been building what is called a new maritime corridor that will help citizens of Eastern Africa. This is the needed for our continent. The challenge that we have to build the resources taught us that we remain apart from the number one threat to the continent, which is climate change, we have other threats on our continent. So this calls for united action. And here when I talk about united action under the African Union, in the presence of our chairman, I am talking of coordination. I think our approach on the ground should not fragment. I think our approach on the ground needs to be strategic, but well coordinated, so that the outcomes are beneficial to our nations. And so in answering the question of let us make use of the 3 banks that we have and ensure that we have bankable projects. I repeat, bankable projects that fall within the vision that we have for our continent. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.